Welcome to SheEO with Sophie. Just a quick note from me. If you like what you hear, go ahead and join the SheEO Club right now by hitting that subscribe button. Not only will you never miss an episode, but you'll also be helping us out more than you know. Thank you and enjoy. With over 15 years of experience across e-commerce, payments, media, and retail, Nikhita Hyett is a leader who blends commercial acumen with human-centered leadership. Currently serving as General Manager for EMEA at Signified, Nikhita is at the helm of a fast-growing commerce protection platform, helping merchants not only prevent fraud, but unlock new revenue opportunities across global markets. Her journey is anything but linear. From starting out in journalism to holding senior roles at fintech giants like BlueSnap, Aiden, and obviously Signified, Nikhita has built a career on curiosity, adaptability, and a drive to make a real impact. In this episode, Nikhita opens up about her path to leadership, what it really means to scale a business in complex markets, and how company culture, authenticity, and resilience shape the way she leads. She shares sharp insights into the challenges of returns abuse in e-commerce, the importance of seamless payment experiences, and why the best salespeople are more than just closers. They're trusted advisors. We also get personal, from navigating work-life harmony as a leader and a mother to confronting the misconceptions women often face in executive roles. This is a conversation about leadership growth and staying true to who you are, even when the pressure is high. Hi, Nikhita. Welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to have you here today. We've spoken so many times, and obviously I've got to know you outside of the work environment, which is awesome. Yeah, speaking to you, I feel like you have so many good little nuggets that people can hopefully take away. So no pressure. Yeah, can't wait to speak to you today.
Hey, Sophie. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, perfect. So let's jump in. I'd love to give everyone a little bit of an overview on who you are.
So I'm Nikhita Hyett. I'm the general manager for Signified in EMEA. Signified are a global fraud prevention and revenue optimization platform. I've been here for just over a year. I live in London. I have 2 kids. I've been in the fintech space for maybe about 10 years. And then in a prior life, I used to be a journalist.
That's pretty cool. What made you move away from being a journalist?
So I had my first kid. So I started off in newspapers. I was a tabloid journalist, and then I moved to magazines, specializing in showbiz. So I started off in tabloid journalism. I was a newspaper reporter. I worked for the Mirror. I worked for the Sunday Mirror, Sunday People. And then I moved from there into magazines, where I worked for showbiz magazines. And then I had my first kid, went back to the magazine, and I realized I didn't actually enjoy writing about the Kardashians or watching the X Factor or any of that kind of standing on a red carpet. It just wasn't for me. And I think you've really got to love journalism to do it. And I'd kind of fallen out of love with it. So I was like, right, if I'm going to be spending my days away from my kid, it's got to be something that is worth my while. And then I had to think about career options, what else I could be doing. I had a friend that worked for a retail tech company, who asked if I wanted to join his team. And I thought, why not? I'll give it a try. It was something super different to what I was used to, but all the skills are transferable, and it was a sales role. And ultimately, when you are a journalist, I think a big part of your job is sales. So yeah, it was transferable.
Yeah. Was it difficult going from one profession into the next?
I think the bit that probably was not difficult, but the hardest thing to kind of just come to terms with is that I feel like in journalism, I was fairly senior. And then the role I moved to in the other company was quite junior. And so I feel like I was quite a bit older than other people in my team. I'd been working a lot longer than them. So I think I was quite conscious of that, especially because I've always been super ambitious. But like, I guess the flip side of that is that I was able to do well and progress in that company and pretty rapidly.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
The other thing as well that I really missed is that when you're at a wedding or something and someone asks you, what's your job? If you say I'm a showbiz journalist or I'm a tabloid journalist, that's like a really good conversation starter. Whereas when you say, oh, I work in retail tech or I work for a payments company, it doesn't have the same ring to it.
Yeah. I get that. I go, "Oh, yeah, I work in recruitment," and then everyone just stops speaking to me, so or they speak to me because they need a job. But yeah, being a journalist and, in that showbiz world, that's really cool, and I can imagine it was difficult going into a new career, especially maybe slightly older, especially within sales, because everyone starts quite young within a lot of these sales roles, but like you say, you kinda utilized your experience and it made you progress quicker, which that's all you can ask for. And now you are where you are, which is amazing. So let's talk about that a little bit more. So I don't know much about the space you're in. I will be completely honest. I know about financial services, but there's only so much a girl knows. Now, payments and fraud, can you break it down for us in like simple terms, especially for people like me, like outside of this fintech bubble?
Yeah, totally. So I think I feel like the best way to think about it is if you look at it from a consumer standpoint. So you're a shopper, you buy things online, right?
Yeah.
When you go and buy something from a website, you want to be able to pay for it in the easiest way possible. So like, would you use Apple Pay? What would you use if you went to a website?
Yeah, Apple Pay. I'm
Yeah.
anything like easy, quick, very dangerous though,
Yeah.
actually. So
But what you don't want is to have to go and get your card, enter it in. You want to keep that whole thing as seamless as possible. So that essentially is like a super important part of payments is these seamless transactions. How can retailers, how can merchants, how can online websites have the easiest way for customers to pay for their stuff? And so payments is bringing that together, like the seamless transactions, taking the money in secure and compliant ways. So making sure that you are who you say you are, taking the money from your account and paying it into the retailer, merchant, whatever, the website's bank account. And so in like the olden days, there were many different processes and companies involved in one transaction. What's happened is with fintech and the fintech boom and innovation and this investment in technology, we've now got some new players in the space. Well, not so new now, like they've been around for the last 10 years, but that have transformed that. So instead of having different payment providers for different countries, different payment methods, different regions, different processes, different payment gateways, etc. Now you can have one company that does everything. And then where fraud fits into it, I kind of touched on that earlier. Anyone that's selling stuff on their website, like if I have a website and Sophie, you're about to buy from it and you're making that transaction, I want to be sure that this is actually Sophie buying it and not someone that's stolen Sophie's card and is using stolen card details. So that's what my company do. We are checking those transactions to make sure that it's a genuine shopper and blocking the fraudsters.
Oh, I love that. I love it. It's like detective work and just, stopping.
It kind of is. Like it
Yeah.
is actually, and what's really interesting as well is you have different generations of fraud providers. Like in the olden days, it was just rules. So you're like, okay, if this person is trying to buy something 3 times in the space of 10 minutes, then let's block them. Like, these kind of black and white rules. And then there was rules with a little bit of intelligence behind it and sort of machine learning. And then you've got the Gen 3, which is really data driven. So my company, and the space that I'm in, we have data that we get from all over the world, from all sorts of sources, which then feed into our machine learning models. So we have like a whole team of data scientists who build these models that when someone is trying to buy something from my website, it'll feed into this model and the model will be able to tell, has this card ever been associated with any fraud? Has any part of this, has this IP address been associated with fraud? Has this email address, what are all the different patterns? And it'll automatically and instantly come up with these decisions. So we have the data scientists doing that, which is like actually really cool. And
Mhm.
then the other part of it is that we have risk intelligence officers, so people from our risk intelligence team who are doing the more like the human intelligence part and the detective work that you're talking about, which is that, like, are there any things that our model hasn't picked up on, but we're seeing something a little bit different, or this person there are no red flags, but there is something slightly off there, and doing that detective work to see, like, is this legit or not?
Wow. And do you block it then and there?
Yeah. Yeah, we block it then and there, and then anything that we approve, we provide guarantees on. So if it turns out to be fraudulent, it's on us.
Oh, okay. This is interesting. Yeah, I always get worried about my card and stuff like that, especially in the States, actually, more than the UK. And you know
100%.
about
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah. Totally. Like in the US, it's much like fraudulent e-commerce transactions are much more prevalent because in Europe, as you know, we have 3D Secure, which
Yeah.
is like, kind of an extra layer of security.
Yeah. Oh, that's quite interesting. Yeah, you never think about these things when you're shopping online. I'm surprised that I haven't been done for fraud, to be honest. The amount of shopping I've done lately, they're probably like, and I'm a quick shopper online as well. I'm
Yeah.
not messing around. I know what I want. I'm in and
I'm the
out.
same. Are you a big returner? Like, will you
Yeah.
buy, but yeah, same. So you'll do a big shop, buy like 10 items, each of them in like
Yeah.
2 to 3 different sizes because you need one dress for a night, and then you'll return everything else. Yeah, totally. I'm the same. And what's really interesting is that we work with retailers, like big global retailers. Those are our customers. And when we speak to them, it's really interesting to understand the different returns policies. So some of them really embrace this and they understand that returns is a cost of doing business. Some of them will hate it, and they kind of haven't fully wrapped their heads around it. And then you have ones that returns abuse is a real problem these days. And I'm not talking about like what you and I do, because we will buy stuff and we'll return it.
Yeah.
But the returns abuse is when people will buy stuff, wear it out,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
return it. Or people will say the item wasn't, but they never received the item.
Yeah.
And then they will claim a chargeback and say, we never received the
Yeah.
item. So that's like a big problem in that space right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I never knew about chargebacks actually until my sisters told me about it. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it is difficult. And the other thing that I've seen actually lately, and I know we're going off topic here, but the other thing I've seen lately is there's a lot of companies that I want to buy from, but they just don't do returns. They'll only do exchanges. And to me,
Yeah.
that's quite frustrating because it's like, oh my God, there's so much I want on their website, but I just don't know what's going to fit me. And I want to buy like loads of stuff, try it on, send the stuff back that I don't want or whatever it may be. But that's quite frustrating. So they're probably some of those retailers that just don't really like the whole return system.
Yeah. And I think that what we're seeing is like quite a few of retailers that didn't like returns have realized that actually in doing that, they lose the sale. And there are some return efficiencies that they can do. And then if they work with someone like my company, then there's also like intelligence that we're able to provide that we can say, okay, so this person across our network has a reputation for fraudulent returns. So you can create this friction. So you can see that there are ways around it, and we're seeing more and more retailers ask us to help them with their return strategy.
Interesting. So any of those retailers that I want to shop at, I'm not going to name you, but you should,
Yeah,
speak to
100%. Yeah,
yourself and let's get that
definitely.
return system because you're losing me. And,
Exactly.
you know, we need to shop.
You know what? I bought something recently, and it didn't arrive. It hasn't arrived, and they're
Right.
saying it's been delivered.
Yep.
And also, it took ages for it to be delivered. Like it's way past the event that I needed it for. So even if it arrived, I'd be sending it back.
Yeah.
But to send it back, it was an address in Asia. I was like, I was really annoyed with myself for not reading the shipping policy, the returns policy, and just getting sucked into an Instagram advert with some pretty dresses.
Classic. Welcome to my life. That's what I do. But do you know what? You're probably going to see Deborah next door wearing that dress out.
Oh yeah,
That's where
that's
it's gone. That's where it is. So coming back to yourself and your background. So you've had obviously an impressive journey across, now that fintech leadership kind of space. What are some of the most like persistent misconceptions you faced as a female within this space?
So I think there's like two areas where I think, at least from what I see, you don't see as many women in as you do men, and in like the fintech in the tech space. And one of those areas is sales. And then the other area is tech. So like the developers, etc. And so I think maybe it's less to do with a misconception. Like I remember, and this was a couple of years ago, someone once told me that women don't make good salespeople. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I've only ever heard it from one person, and I think you and I, we know that's not true. So I wouldn't say that's something I've consistently heard, but I've definitely been told that by someone. And this person was actually a sales coach. That was his job. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hope you're
Terrible.
using him.
Yeah. So I think that was pretty terrible. But I think one of the other things, which is maybe less to do with my industry and maybe more to do with my age. So I'm 42. I think it was that it's really hard that it's not possible to have a career, have kids, have a life that's outside of, and if you do have a career and kids, to have a life that's outside your kids. I think that's something that I was really aware of, but never believed, and have always worked hard to maintain those different parts of my life, my
Yeah.
career, my family. And my family is, my kids, my husband, my parents, my siblings, but also like my life, my friends, my social group, the things that I do for me, my exercise, etc. And I think one of the things maybe about the um, the companies I've worked for, I've been I've been able to have that. I mean, it's not a balance either. Like someone once told me that it's not about a work-life balance, it's a work-life harmony. And
Hmm.
you'll have times when something will be taking priority over the other, and it's kind of constantly trying to find that like harmony. And it's hard work because you've got all these different parts of your life that you want to be involved with. But like I think it is, I'm not saying it's possible to have it all, but I think if it's something that you want and if it's important, then there is a way to make it work for you.
Yeah, you'll find a way. But I think that is a misconception, is especially as a female, because you don't hear on podcasts or, out in the world about men, finding the harmony or the balance. It's just,
Yeah.
oh, you do everything great. But when it comes down to women, it is more of a case of, oh, yeah, how are you balancing your career and your children and your, husband or,
Yes,
partner, whatever it may
totally.
be?
That's so
Like,
true.
why are we being
Yeah.
questioned about it when, men are doing the same? It just, for me, it doesn't make sense. And I do think that there is, like we say, that is a misconception. And I think people talk about it a lot. And, I've actually corrected myself saying, oh, how do you balance it? It's not
Yeah.
about balancing it. It's about, whatever works for you, just make it work for you and you'll figure it out as you go. And like you say, one minute you might be focused on business, the next minute you might be focused on a family, but that's okay. And that's
Yeah.
normal.
I think I think one of the challenges that from what I see, and I really, really hate stereotypes. I feel
Hmm.
as though my entire life I've been trying to fight against stereotypes, and I hate them with a passion. One of the things that as I've got older, I've become more and more aware of is that I would say more often than not, like when it comes to home stuff, when it comes to kids stuff, I think it might be like a society thing, something where women do more with home stuff when it comes to their kids than men. And this is like a generalization and a stereotype, which I hate because in my family, that's not the case at all. We share everything. We co-parent our children and we share that responsibility. I do see more often than not that it is women that take on more of the home stuff. And I would love to see that changing. And I would love to see either like men wanting to do more at home or women. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know where that comes from, but I would say that is the case with most of my peers, most of my friends. Not all, like not all, but I would say that yeah, that's something that I've seen, and I'd really love to see that.
Yeah, definitely a society thing. I mean, even when you've been growing up, right? It's something that you've seen, and it's always been in the media, or even like your own families. The woman is always the stay-at-home mum or whatever it may be. But I do think that's changing. I have a lot
Yeah.
of friends that just don't agree with that, and they're like business women, and their partners are at home or whatever it may be, and I think that's fantastic. But yeah, that's always, I think that's going to be the
I
the
think that's
case.
fantastic too, and I love
Yeah,
that, and I love that. Like I think that's super cool, and I would love to see more of that. And I think the other big thing is like the salaries. Not like, I think sometimes when you have a kid, if you take a year off work, then you're already 1 year behind, both in terms of promotion and salary.
yeah,
So already, you and your partner could be on the same salary. They'll be earning more. So it makes more sense for them to carry on and you take that. And okay, there are people who choose to be at home. They want to be at home. They want to step back from their career. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm
yeah,
talking about people who actually want to work and would like to continue working, but there's some sort of expectation that actually now they're not earning enough, or I mean, and not everyone can, afford to go back to work and have childcare.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've heard story, I mean, I don't have kids just yet, just putting that out there, but I've heard stories and I've spoken to so many people where they've gone, "Actually, it makes more sense for me to,
Yeah.
literally be the childcare because it's so expensive," especially in the UK. Obviously, I
But
know a
that's
lot
how
of
it was for
people.
me. Like
Yeah.
when I went back to work after having my first kid,
Mm.
it was like literally breaking even.
Yeah.
My salary was paying, at that time was paying the childcare. Like we didn't have much to spare at all.
Mm.
But I, it, but that changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it does, it does. And I think, we talk about it, and I've spoken to many women on this podcast, especially with kids and very successful women, obviously like yourself, and it's, you'll find your way, you'll find what works for you, and it's navigating that. I think there's no kind of one size fits all, and that's what I feel like we have to remind people is, we can't tell you stay at home or we can't tell you to go to work. Do what you want to do. If you want to work, go and work. Like, do what you want to do and you'll figure it out, but there's no structure. Like, we can't tell you exactly what to do.
No.
And I think society up until now has told people this is what it should be like.
Yeah, I feel like I think there's just been so many different like expectations, and
Mm,
like you said, it's to do with your upbringing,
yeah,
it's to do with your expectations. I think, yeah, I feel also when I was going back to work after having my first kid, and then also after my second, like part of me did think, do I want to stay at home now? Like,
yeah,
firstly, it just wasn't an option. I think there are things in my lifestyle I enjoy way too much to, not have a salary.
yeah,
But it was like, do I want to stay at home? But it was not a conversation that we had like with my husband. But,
yeah,
oh, Brad, do you want to stay at home? It just wasn't. And it
yeah.
wasn't even something that occurred to him. And
Mhm.
we are like, we're not your stereotypical relationship. And it was like, oh, do I want to stay at home? I mean, the answer was immediately no, because I want to work and I want the money and we need the money. But what's changed is that now that both my husband and I are quite senior in our industry, and now we can actually have that conversation where it's like, we don't, like, neither of us are planning to stop working, but we are in a situation where one of us, like if my husband's like, actually, you know what, I want to take a bit of a break,
Yeah.
we can do that.
That option. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's it where you've kinda continued through, I suppose, the tough point and you guys are in that situation, you have the option now, which I think a lot of people don't necessarily get to have. And talking more about that kind of leadership piece as well, because I'm intrigued, obviously, from yourself managing multiple different teams, now, previously. Have you ever had to adapt your leadership style to be taken seriously?
In short, no, I don't, because um, I really believe in myself and also my team and the people that I work with.
Yeah.
And I think I have kind of proven success. And I feel like that is important, and also being consistent. And I think that's what I'm like. And I've never changed my personality to manage people. I think it is maybe what I've changed is my approach, because it's not one size fits all. If people in your team have different personalities, so you need to be aware of their personalities and find the best way to work with them. Like, to get the best outcome from your team, you need to find the best way of working with them. But at no point has that meant I've changed my personality or changed the way that I am. I think I think you could ask my team. I think I'm generally quite a relaxed person. I'm really serious about work, but I think my style is, I don't think I've ever had to change myself to manage a team.
That's good. That's good because I think a lot of people probably have in their time or feel like they've had to. But going back to your point around consistency, 100% agree. I think if you're consistent, you'll gain trust. And then also, if you've been there, done it, you've shown that you can deliver and you deliver time and time again. I think that's,
I think so. And I think the other
important.
thing as well is that, like, I've had quite a lot of bosses, and I've had some really good ones, and I've had some not so great ones. And I think what I've tried to take on is, and I'm saying I'm not the perfect manager by any stretch of the imagination. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I think some of the things that I've learned is from really good managers, from really good bosses, from great CEOs. Learned a lot from them. Like, people who, like my current CEO Raj, there's so much that I learned from him. My previous CEO Henry, like he also from him, like, there's just so much that I've learned from both of these guys. I had some really great editors when I was working as a journalist, and I had some like terrible ones. I think some and worst people I've worked with were in journalism. So it's I think there's a lot that I've learned, and there were also people that I've come across that think when you are leading a team, you need to behave in a certain way. And especially if you're leading a sales team, there are people who think that you need to behave like an asshole, and you don't. And I really don't believe in that. And I think there are certain basic things that you need when you are leading a team, which is like collaboration and listening to each other and learning from each other, but also having clear focus and direction. And, the way to do that is ultimately we're all working towards the same goal, and work should be a pleasure. Like, you should enjoy what you're doing. And I feel like I really do. Like, I was on holiday last week and came back to work this morning, and actually I have like a couple of team calls in the morning, and I love it. Like, I love catching up with my team and speaking to them. And it definitely, like, I hope they agree, but I think, it's just like a really nice start to the week, and I enjoy spending time with them. I travel loads with work, and I actually genuinely enjoy spending time with them. Like, for example, with your sister Emma, we were at a conference together in Barcelona, and it was excellent from a work standpoint, but also just really fun. It was like laugh a minute.
Yeah, that's what you need. But
Yeah.
work is, I say 80, 90% of your life almost. You have to enjoy it and you have to enjoy the people that you work with. And that's something that over the past few years I've really focused on. And I rejoined a business that I used to work for just because I absolutely love the people. And now I'm back. I'm like, I don't even feel like I'm working. I'm just chatting to like my friends every day, but I'm getting stuff done, which
But
is
this is what
obviously.
you and I spoke about, right? Like, we were
Hmm.
saying that actually, and I think we're both quite similar in this, in that, like, we want to enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then if we don't enjoy it, we're going to find something else that we enjoy. But what we want to do is, if we're committed to something, we want to make that
Yeah.
successful, and we want to enjoy the journey. And I really believe that, like, that is, feel like that's really important. Like, that's kind of how I try to like live. And then I can't remember whether I told you this, but years ago, where I think it was just after I had my career change, a friend of mine told me, she said that there are 2 out of 3 things that you need to be happy in your job and to make it worthwhile sticking around. And the 3 things are money, and then second thing is recognition,
Mhm.
and then the third thing is enjoyment. And if you have 2 out of those 3, then it's worth like sticking around. But if it's anything less than that, then that's when you're like, I need to be thinking that's when you're unhappy.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to note down actually, because I don't necessarily think of it like that, but I completely agree.
Because I can think of jobs where I have been senior,
Yeah,
I've enjoyed it, but the money's been rubbish. and nothing I was doing there was changing it or getting me a higher salary. And so it's like, right, they don't see my worth. I'm going to go move somewhere else that does. I've been in places where I've had the salary and kind of half enjoyed it, but I was super like not getting the recognition. And the recognition could be whether it's job title or like the projects you're working on, getting the recognition for that. And actually 1.5 wasn't enough for me to stick around. But then I will always, So I feel like that's been quite interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. And actually, to go back, I was just thinking, you mentioned as a leader and obviously working with the different CEOs and people that you have, you've taken leadership qualities from them that you liked. I think that's really important. That's something that I've definitely done. Like every manager I've ever had, and I'll remember my first ever, like I say, proper manager when I first got into recruitment. And he better listen to this actually. But my first ever manager, I thought he was great. I mean, he was quite chilled, but you knew if you did wrong, and he would just crack jokes all day, but then crack jokes to be like, "Oh, what you doing? Are you doing this?" And it was just like those little things where I was like, I know he's trying to have a little dig at me, but it's actually making me work harder because I don't want him to do that. And there was these little things that I just were like, oh, I like the way he did that. And I never
Yeah.
felt like I couldn't speak with him and he threw me in the deep end. And that's definitely something I do now. Like, just to let anyone know, if you work for me, I'll throw you in the deep end. Not straight away, but but I liked that. So I always whenever I have a manager, I take the stuff I like and then I remember the stuff I don't like because I think that's how you become a better leader. That and obviously doing all of the kind of leadership coaching and all the other, I say, not so fun stuff. But take note from people and learn.
I agree. And I think also the other thing that I've taken from places that I've worked is the company cultures.
Mm,
So I guess my payments career started at Adyen, which is like an amazing, amazing place to work, amazing company. When I was there, that was when they IPO'd and amazing tech,
yeah,
great people. And also when I was there, company culture was a huge, huge part of Adyen. Everyone who interviewed there, their final interview was with a member of the board. The culture piece was really important. And I think that's kind of one of the first places where it was so important, where it was something that was an emphasis from the leadership. Like the places I'd worked before, like the retail tech company, they had a great culture. I feel like it was a great culture that all of us there created. Whereas Adyen was the first place where the leadership were like, we believe this is a special company and we want everyone working here to feel special. And I really loved that. And I always tried to take the bits of it that I liked with me. And then when I was at Blue Snap, there were things that like Henry brought into the company culture that I loved. And then at Signified, for us as a company, the culture is super important as well. Like it's, our chief people officer, our CEO, like the company culture um, is is a huge factor
yeah,
in the organization.
yeah. You can see that though. Obviously, I've hung out with you guys a few times, and yeah, the culture's good. I have a job, but if I didn't, I'd call you.
Yeah, of course, we'd love to have you.
Thanks. So keeping in this trend, I'm really curious around the sales side because obviously I'm a sales leader as well. You've led large sales and partnership teams across Europe. What's one thing people misunderstand about when it takes to basically manage high performance fintech sales team?
So I think one of the challenges the company I worked for, the company I previously worked for, both American head offices, and both of these organizations. The reason I love working there is because they've understood one of the biggest challenges you have in Europe. When you're leading a team in Europe, Europe is not a country. It's made up of many different countries, different cultures, different languages, payment methods, currencies, regulation, etc. There are some commonalities between the countries, but they are different countries. It's not like the US, which is one country.
Yeah.
So the challenges are the different countries. Europe is not a country. It's made up of many different countries with languages, currencies, cultures, etc. And with that, the challenge is one, having people in the country, in that region, being able to speak the language. And then the other piece as well is, I mentioned this earlier, is the cultures. It's the different cultures. It is in the US, it can be in the US, people love titles. Like some of the big corporates, you have like VP of nonsense, like you've got your SVP of whatever BS title they want to come up with. Like you've got VPs coming out of your arse with big corporate companies, right? And then like everyone loves a title. Over here, depending on the country, it's not the same. And so it's kind of understanding how different countries work and what the different roles and responsibilities are and how that organization works. And I feel like it's just Europe is not one size fits all. So managing a team of people, trying to get that success and get that kind of, high performance, it definitely is appreciating the nuances of each of those countries and hiring the right people to get results there and trusting them to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine the skill that you need to work across Europe, which is obviously massive. Okay, I have a question then when you are hiring. What like hiring red flags do you watch out for when building commercial teams within this sector?
So I have in my career, I've made lots of amazing hires, but I've also made some really bad hires too. And I think some of the things that I have, there's a couple of different things for me. One, I think it's really important that people prepare for their interviews. People put that time in, and I've been really surprised by the number of people that haven't. And it's important to get along with someone, but that is not enough to overcome some of the shortfalls that they might have in their knowledge or in their behavior or how they interact. And so I think it's like the lack of prep would always be a red flag for me. Lack of research, understanding the company, understanding what they do and what we do, what our solution is, our products, etc. And then the other thing is like straight up like bullshitting.
Oh yeah.
I'm in sales, right? So like there's always going to be a certain element when like that, that like I get that. But in an interview, if someone is a bad bullshitter, they're not going to, then,
Yeah. Yeah. I think you see that a lot in sales. A
yeah.
lot. I see it. I've interviewed so many people. I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I think so. And I think because for me, wherever I work, yes, I'm in sales, but I really have to believe in the product.
Same.
And so before I go anywhere, like I do my research and I want to understand. And that's why I've worked for like the market leaders and the companies that I know what they're doing. And so I really, really believe in it. And that means that actually I want to sell this stuff because I think it is going to make like, it's going to help. It's going to help businesses. It's going to help prevent fraud. It's going to increase or payment authorization rates, whatever it is. I believe in what I'm selling.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, so it's authentic.
Yeah, I agree. I'm exactly the same as you. I have to be passionate about it and believe in it, and then I feel like I'm not even working. So completely agree. What do you think are the skills that make good salespeople then?
So I think the skills are, I think it is someone who, it's a little bit like I said about about the interviews, someone who's prepared, someone who's done their research, who knows what they're going after and what they need to do to get there. I think it's someone who's persistent without being pushy, but someone who's not afraid to follow up. I think the other thing that's really important for me is someone who's personable, right? Like my sales team, they are excellent because they're authentic, they are persistent, but they have a great way about them. They've got great mannerisms. They're the sort of, I guess I'm biased, but I didn't hire them. They were in the company before I joined. So, I can't take any credit for their amazingness. They're authentic and everyone they speak to wants to chat to them, hang out with them, like have lunch with them or be their friend, but also then trust what they're saying and believes what they're saying as well, because they are authentic about believing in what we're doing.
Yeah, I love that. And how was it taking over a team that was already there?
So I think I was really lucky because I had a good group of people. I
Yeah.
have a great group of people. So they really welcomed me. I have also um, like across the European team, there's quite a few women. So I think it's a really great mix of people. We're all quite similar. We did the DISC training, the DISC assessment, which looks at like like the personality test. Whoops.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
And we're all kind of similar, but the differences were like we just kind of complemented each other. So it was good. I think it'd be more interesting to ask them how they found me joining. They were open to my suggestions. There's things that we changed. There's certain processes that we changed. They were pretty patient with me as I found my feet,
Yeah.
and kind of, you know, they were good at embracing the new things that I wanted to put in place. And also, I guess one big thing that I want to do is make sure that they get the recognition internally for all the things that they're doing. So we've got my marketing team are excellent, and it's really important that they get that recognition globally across the company.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the customer success team, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Sales guys, BDR, like partnerships, like all of these teams are they're all excellent at what they do. One of the other things as well that was really important to me was creating an EMEA leadership team, which previously we didn't have. And I think when you want to work with European businesses, it's really important. We have that European presence, and we just didn't have the European leadership team. Or we had European leaders, but that it just wasn't the same structure. So now we have our EMEA leadership team. And I think also that just means that cross-functionally, all the different teams work really well together. We're all working towards the same goal. So it's not just, okay, I'm just leading the sales team, sales and partnerships. It is collectively, whether it's CS, implementation, like the technical people, the customer success people, the sales guys, partnerships, marketing, we're all working together and we're all complementing each other. And I think that's why we've had such a successful first half of the year.
Yeah. No, I love that. And imagine if I go part two, we're going to be meeting all of your team.
Yay. Oh my God. I'd love
Imagine.
that. I would love that. Oh, you know what you should do, Sophie? You should do a,
Do like
like,
a poll.
yeah. So, Nikita said that this is her style. Would you agree? Or how would you say Nikita describes her style? How would you describe Nikita's style? And then see what they
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I'll have to record it before we post this just so I can get all of the honest answers. God, imagine. Oh my God.
Can you
Okay.
imagine?
We're going to
Can you
do that.
imagine? Yeah.
I'll let you know. Now, curious again. I keep saying I'm curious, but I am. What would the Nikita of 10 years ago be surprised to learn about the Nikita of today?
So 10 years ago, so I'd left journalism 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'd had the career change. I don't know if there's anything that she'd be surprised by, but I think she'd be really happy. I think
Oh,
she'd be like, okay, you know, all that hard work. It's like I think she'd be really happy. I think
I love
she'd be
that.
like, okay, that's really cool. Like it's, you know, she's got a job that she enjoys. She works with people that she likes. She's got two amazing children. She's got, you know, like an amazing husband who, like, she's still with Brad, and they're, and you know, they're happy, and they've got a really good partnership in their marriage when it comes to everything. And also, you know, my husband he definitely inspires me from a work standpoint. Like I wouldn't have changed careers if it wasn't for him. I wouldn't have had the confidence to make the asks that I've asked for whenever I've in my job or when I've moved to a new company if it wasn't for the confidence that he's helped me with. So I think like when it comes to career inspiration, but also career coach, I'd probably say like Brad is super important, a massive part of that.
Yeah. That's why you need a good partner in your life, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Someone who will support you and push you as much as you push
yeah.
them. Yeah. Oh, that's inspired me. Now we have a tradition on this podcast, and I'm going to put you on the spot. It's kind of similar to what I've asked you, but we'll go for it anyway. So our closing question is: what is one piece of advice you'd give your younger self?
Okay, so I think it kind of goes back to something that you were asking me earlier. It is, you don't need to change yourself to be successful. Yeah. I think that like if I think back to when I was a teenager, my dad sold fruit and veg. My mum stayed at home. My dad worked super hard, like hard work to put me and my sisters through private school. And that definitely instilled like a work ethic. And my mum was really crucial in pushing me and my sisters to work hard, to do well, to have careers, to be financially independent. But neither of them had worked in offices, and neither of them, they grew up in like India and in Kenya. So there were a lot of like things that there was a lot of things that they were able to instill in me, but experiences I had to figure out myself. And then I think in doing that, it was definitely, if I think about like my teens and my 20s, trying to figure out who I am and how to behave in the work environment. And I remember when I was a journalist and I'd go into like the morning conference where everyone would talk about the ideas they have. And the first couple of months, I was like, oh my God, this is like, oh, I don't have any of this. And then I realized everyone's just talking bullshit. So I can do this, no problem. And it was just, I think, yeah. So I think it just realizing that I don't need to change who I am to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for me, it's only really probably the past few years that I've really realized, even actually, I'd say the past year, I've
Yeah.
really kind of lent into who I am. I think in your 20s, you go through a period of time where you are just like trying to be a comedian and just,
And you're trying to figure out who you are,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because like when you move out of home, that's the time when you actually figure out who you are. Because when you're living at home, when you're with your parents and you're being financially supported by your parents, because obviously you're a child,
yeah,
you're kind of their child. And then when you move out and you figure out who you are and what your place is and what you enjoy doing.
yeah, and embrace it. And
Yeah.
the more you lean into it, like I say, I've definitely lent into it over the past year, and that's why we're here.
So just like kind of similar but slightly off topic. I really love reading, but I really love reading trashy novels. And my favorite author is Jackie Collins. And when I was a journalist, I interviewed her a couple of times and I loved it. Like she sent me Christmas cards and everything. And out of every single famous person I've met, which includes like Barack Obama, Jackie Collins was by far the most exciting and the most starstruck I was. And she told me, like, one of the things that I was talking to her about is I said, oh, I'm not really massively into the theater and I'm not really into like cultured stuff. I just prefer um, things that are like a little bit more down to earth. And I love listening to like pop music and I love reading trashy novels and watching cheesy movies. And she was like, Nikita, let me tell you something. You are a cultured person and the culture that you're into is pop culture and there is nothing wrong with that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's true. That's true. So like,
Yeah.
you know, and Jackie Collins said, she's like, you do not need to change who you are to be successful. So yeah, now I'm thinking about it. That came from Jackie.
Yeah, and if Jackie said it, guys, we
If
listen
yeah,
to Jackie.
exactly.
Yeah,
OG Queen of Steam.
exactly. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time today. It's been so good to get to know you even more. Yeah, and I'm just excited to see, what more comes.
Thanks, Sophie. Thank you for having me. Really good to see you as always.